Hello and welcome back to What If a Billionaire Invested in the Eredivisie. It's the Football Manager Experiment on the channel at the moment, and we're going to see how the Eredivisie teams have been getting on in the leagues and in Europe. Now, I was only meant to go 3 years into the future, but somehow I've managed to go 6 years into the future, so that's my mistake, but you've got more things to look forward to now. So we've gone 6 years into the future since last episode, and we'll do another 5 in this episode as well, so you've got a lot of stuff to keep yourself entertained with. First of all, go to the Eredivisie event and see what's been happening. If we click on ADO Den Haag, as you can see they came 14th, but that's just a quick way to get to the Eredivisie. There's been a bit of stagnation in the Eredivisie. It moved up to 8th overall and stayed there for a few years before going into 7th, where it's now eclipsed the Russian Premier League, so that's pretty good to see. It's now hopefully catching up the Portuguese league, and we'll try and break into the top 5 or the big 5 leagues. So if we go back to 2019-2020 season, the first season of the 6 that have just gone by, we can see that Ajax won it, closely followed by Feyenoord and Heerenveen. Feyenoord finishing only a point behind Ajax and level on goal difference. That was a very close league that season. I think Feyenoord probably count themselves a bit unlucky to lose that. The season afterwards, Ajax won it again, only by 1 point again from PSV this time, finishing on 68 and 67 points respectively. Feyenoord actually finished on 66 points, so they were very close in third place, and FC20 finishing on 65 points. So again, they came pretty close, and FC20 seems to be climbing up the rankings through the years. The season after that then, Ajax won it again. You can see a bit of a theme coming out here, this time a bit more convincingly. They beat FC20 to it by 5 points, Feyenoord finishing third and PSV in fourth. Season after that, once again, Ajax winning it on 74 points ahead of FC20, finishing second for a second year in a row, with PSV and Feyenoord finishing up third and fourth. So you can sort of see that these top 4 are starting to emerge now. People like AZ and Wilhelm, they're sort of finishing in the European playoff places, but there's sort of a natural order forming now. I've not mentioned much about relegation, but that's only because teams keep bouncing up and down all the time. Season afterwards, once again, Ajax winning it, but only on goal difference this time from Feyenoord, so they were pegged back a little bit, but their goal difference helped them to it, beating Feyenoord, FC20 finishing third, and AZ breaking into the top 4 this time, with PSV finishing down in 5th. Season later on, finally a different winner, FC20 have won it. In fact, it's the season that's just been, FC20 have won it on goal difference this year from Ajax. So after last season, they lost it on goal difference, or Ajax won it on goal difference rather. This time they lost it on goal difference, and FC20 the champions. Groningen finishing third. They've come out of nowhere. I didn't really see them in the rankings, but they've not got a European place, so I presume they may have got financial fair play problems. We'll have a look at that in a second. Feyenoord finishing third, Utrecht finishing 5th, and AZ picking up that final Europa League place. So it was asked of me in the last episode to look at the European playoffs. So if we look at the second round for the past couple of years, we can see which other teams have been getting to Europe. So FC20 have been winning that. They won that in that first season, so they've been in Europe. Zwolle have been in Europe. They won that on away goals, actually. They had a good game there. AZ winning it, so they've had some good European competitions. Utrecht winning it. So there's been actually quite a range of teams winning this, which is quite interesting. A lot of different teams that wouldn't normally get European football, I imagine. AZ getting it last season, beating PSV 5-4 in aggregate. That's quite a good tie for them. And then this season gone by, PSV beat Feyenoord to it. And yeah, as you can see, ADO Den Haag, Groningen, Wilhelm and PSV all have failed licences and therefore cannot play in Europe because they've just failed financial fair play. We saw this last time with Serbian teams, and I think it's probably just because we've given them the billion outright and they're spending all that money, and then it's starting to run out and they're not making enough profit to get themselves in it, because it's not being given to them as profit every season. It's given to them just as a one-time thing. So obviously they can't deal with the finances, and they've had to go into financial fair play because of it. So Champions League and Europa League qualification is still the exact same. But I did forget to mention that the winner of the Dutch Cup also goes in to the Europa League. So we'll look at the Dutch Cup and see who's been winning that the past few seasons. As you can see, actually, it's been very, very varied. Ajax won it 3 out of the past 4 years, but before there, Excelsior, Sparta, PSV, Utrecht, Wilhelm and FC20 all winning it. So there's been a range of teams winning it and a lot of teams going to Europe, so that's pretty good. So a quick look at transfers as well over the past couple of seasons, just to see how things have been going. The biggest transfer in the 1920 season was a player leaving, Joshua Kimmich. He left to Bayern for nearly 20 million, rising to 23 million. The biggest transfer in was Pim Hermans from Feyenoord to Wilhelm, so that's just a domestic one, 21 million, pretty decent. Yuri Tellemans has come in from Anderlecht to PSV for 14 million, rising to 23 million, so that's the biggest one from a foreign club into the league, so that's pretty decent. Yuri Tellemans, how's he developed? Because he's still there. He's still there. He's not looking as great as he could be. I've seen him look better in other saves, so perhaps he's not quite developed to his full potential there. Season after that, likes of Chelsea coming in for some players. More and more players are starting to leave ever so... Well, I say that. Only Juventus and Chelsea have bought players on their Chinese team, but a few more players are starting to leave for big sums of money. Season after that, a big £45 million from PSV for a player, Luca Di Giacomo. Is he any good? Yeah, I think he looks pretty decent, doesn't he? Valued at 22 million right now, but he's at Bayern Munich now, so obviously he didn't stay around very long at PSV after he signed for 45 million. This seems to be quite a big season for spending money. 33 was the second biggest and 23 was the third biggest, so, and they're all coming in. PSV spending quite big that summer. Season after that, quite a few players are leaving for some big money. Although the transfer spend has actually gone down quite a bit here. They seem to have calmed down with how much they're spending, but Lucas leaving PSV to Monaco and Djurjevic leaving Utrecht to Tottenham for 12 and 15 million respectively. Season afterwards, again the spending seemed to pick up. They seem to have a bit of a off-season, on-season, off-season, on-season in terms of spending. Sekou Ferreira leaving Arsenal to AZ for 45 million, rising to 68 million. That's huge. Is he any good? Let's have a look at him. He looks alright, to be fair. At 22 years old, actually, that is pretty decent. I'd take him at 22 years old like that, so yeah, maybe I should cut him some slack. But I do think the price is a bit inflated, what he actually is. Last season then, 35 million spent by Barcelona for a chap from AZ. Bayern Munich spending 26 million, rising to 45 million for that Luca Di Giacomo guy. So they lost a bit of money on him actually. And that's actually this last season, so there's no more after that. This is the kind of transfers you can see. FC20 making quite a few big deals. They seem to be the dominant side in transfers this season, spending 13 and 10 million, rising quite a lot each of those transfers, so hopefully they'll be good players for them. So obviously we need to get to European football now and have a look at how each team are doing. So if we go back to the 1920 season, you can see that no Dutch team made it into the first knockout round of a Champions League, which is a bit unfortunate. Season afterwards though, if we have a look around, Ajax made it through, but they lost 2-0 to Man City, but 4-0 on aggregate, so a team getting there but not making much progress. Season after that, PSV are the team that make it there, but they lose 3-1 to Bayern Munich on aggregate after drawing the first leg 0-0, which is quite a good result to be fair, but couldn't hold on in the second leg. The season after that, doesn't seem to be any Dutch teams making it into the first knockout round, which is a bit unfortunate really after the success of the past two seasons. The further season on, Ajax make it through and beat Tottenham 2-1 on aggregate, so that's fantastic. They get through into the quarter-finals, blimey, where they lose 7-1 to Barcelona, so not the best draw for them, I suppose, but they did well to get to the quarter-finals at least. And if we look at the season that's just gone, I can't see any Dutch teams in there, so that's unfortunate. I expected slightly better from them, but apparently not. So looking at the Europa League instead now, let's have a look. If we go back to the 1920 season once again, 4 teams, I got a bit ahead of myself there with my counting. 4 teams made it through: Feyenoord, PSV, AZ and Ajax, with Ajax and Feyenoord making it through after beating Stoke and Man United respectively. They went into the second knockout round, where Feyenoord lost to Man City 6-1 on aggregate. That's pretty poor, but Ajax managed to beat Basel 5-2 on aggregate, so that's a good result for them. They went through to the quarter-finals, where they faced Roma but lost 4-2 on aggregate, so unlucky to them, but fantastic showing for Ajax in the Europa League. Season after that, only the one team made it in to the first knockout round, AZ losing to Braga 4-3 on aggregate. That's pretty close, quite a tough result to take, but Braga taking the spoils there and going through, so this season seems to be a bit of a downer for them. I don't know what happened there, but pretty poor. 21-22 season now, and Vitesse won their game against Besiktas 2-1, and they are the only team, I'm lying to you, they're not the only team, AZ are also in there. They lost 3-1 to Borussia Mönchengladbach after winning the first leg, to be fair, but Vitesse went through into the second knockout round, where they played Wolfsburg but lost 4-3 on aggregate. Despite a brave 3-1 win, they lost the first leg 3-0, and it just wasn't good enough. So the season after that, we can see that Feyenoord made it through but lost to Borussia Mönchengladbach 4-3 on aggregate, so pretty unlucky there. FC20 lost to PSG 4-2 on aggregate, and Ajax lost to Lazio 3-1 on aggregate. So the Dutch teams all being knocked out in the first knockout round there, unfortunately. A further season on now, and we can have a look down, and we can see that AZ managed to beat Shakhtar Donetsk 3-2, and Feyenoord lost to Anderlecht 6-1 on aggregate. That's poor, to be fair. All things considered, because Anderlecht, I can't imagine they're going to be as good as Feyenoord, if any better, so to lose by that much is very poor, but at least AZ went through. They got into the second knockout round and they lost to Besiktas 4-0 on aggregate, so not the best showing, but at least another team is getting through. And in the most recent season, we can see that only 2 teams went through. AZ got in, but they lost to Man United 3-2 on aggregate. That's unlucky, to be fair, to lose out by that little. And Feyenoord beat Standard Liège 6-3 on aggregate. So they had a pretty good tie. They went into the second knockout round where they faced Man United, who knocked out AZ, and they lost 3-0 on aggregate. So that's the end of the Dutch teams in this competition. So they've done alright for themselves. It's not been too bad. They're starting to get a little bit further on, but I'd like to see a little bit more progression. So we're going to go a further 5 years into the future now and see just what happens. So we're back now after 5 years, and we can see what's going to happen in the Eredivisie. So we're going to look at it straight away and see where the league is. Now, as we can see, over the past 5 years, it rose up to 7th overall in competition rankings before dropping down to 8th the past 2 years. So that's happened. There's been a bit of stagnation. They've been able to overtake Turkey, but Turkey's overtaking them again. So I guess that's to do with who's done well in Europe, and they've not been able to break into that top 6, top 5 thing yet. But hopefully they will do in the near future. If we go back 5 years into the 25-26 season, we can see that Feyenoord won the league from FC20 by 1 point, AZ finishing 3rd on goal. I mean, it's so close to the top of these divisions. Literally, most seasons now, it's 1 or 2 points in it, or on goal difference, that's how it's won. So they're doing well. Wilhelm finishing 4th, and Ajax finishing all the way down in 5th, their lowest league finish in absolutely ages. They're clearly haven't handled this season very well for whatever reason. The season after that, though, it was all returned to normal as Ajax won with 96 points. That's the highest I've seen it. They've absolutely dominated there with a massive goal difference as well, so they must have spent big over the summer then. Feyenoord finishing in 2nd, AZ in 3rd, and Vitesse in 4th, finishing off those European places. Season after that, once again, Ajax winning it, only 2 points ahead of FC20 this time, with Feyenoord in 3rd and Vitesse in 4th, so it's starting to look a bit usual. Roda JC, though, finishing 5th. That's a team close to my heart, and I think it was probably FIFA 14. Me and my dad had a joint career mode on FIFA. We did a random team. We picked Roda, and we never won the Eredivisie with them, but we did win the Europa League with them, and that was the crowning achievement. So Roda JC are a team very close to my heart for that reason, really. Season after that, Ajax winning it again, this time by an absolutely huge margin from Feyenoord, finishing on 67 points ahead of PSV. Pek Zwolle finishing in 4th, and Roda JC finishing 5th again, so they're starting to mount themselves. They've suddenly jumped up the table. They were down in the relegation for most of it, but they've jumped up now, so I'm pretty happy about that. And in the season, we've just had Ajax winning the league from Roda, who are in the Champions League for the first time in their history, closely followed by Feyenoord. Excelsior finishing 4th. However, I assume that they lost the playoffs to Groningen, or they could have financial fair play problems. We don't know, but Groningen getting the 5th place, and Vitesse must have won the Dutch Cup. So if we look at the playoff system, then and we go to the second round just to see who's won that the past couple of seasons. As you can see, Groningen beat Excelsior to it this season. A season before, Roda beat Pek Zwolle, so that's the way they've had some European football recently. Roda winning it the season before that against PSV, so they've seemed to be an established European football team now. Actually, they've been there for a couple of years. They're now in the Champions League. Utrecht beating Groningen the season before that quite empathetically, and Ajax beating Wilhelm that season when they did very, very poor. So Ajax, just a random blip there. They finished 4th a season, not too long ago, but they are absolutely dominant at the top. No team have got any financial fair play problems at the moment, so that's quite good. They seem to be managing their finances quite well. If we look at transfers over the past 5 seasons, then in this 25-26 season, the biggest transfer is only 13 million, so not too much. The money is starting to slow down now, and a few more players are starting to leave, but not many. They're still mostly coming in, but once you get past the 5th biggest transfer, it goes into single figures. It's not huge. Season after that, the biggest transfer is 20 million leaving the Dutch divisions. Petrov leaving to Bayern Munich, and then Ajax spending big on, well, you say big. In compared to recent seasons, it's not big at all. Only 12, 10 and 6 million each, and then PSV spending 5. So as you can see, the transfer spending has suddenly slowed down with players coming in. This time, the biggest transfers leaving the biggest transfers are players leaving. Feyenoord with the biggest spending of 10 million. So things have started to slow down. I think what we'll probably have to do for them before the next episode is give everyone else another billion, see if that increases some spending and gets them just higher up the rankings a little bit. They're starting to run out of the money, and I suppose it's likely, really. No one's really been bought or sold for that much now, so we'll have to try and get them a bit more money. If we look at Ajax, then, of that 1 billion that we gave them, they've only got 100 million of that left. So they've saved it quite well, but they clearly need a bit more of a boost of the finances if they're going to try and compete at the higher levels. If we look at Roda, for example, as well, their finances. They've only got 69 million left, so I think everyone is in need of a big boost. So just a quick look at the past winners of the Dutch Cup over the past couple of seasons. Ajax have again been winning it again, but Feyenoord, VVV Venlo, Groningen and Vitesse are also the other winners. RKC, the runners up there, they're in the Uniper League. I don't think I ever gave them a billion, if I'm honest with you. Their finances show that no, I never gave them any money, so they've done well to get to the final of that. I don't know how seriously clubs take the Dutch Cup, but if it has got European qualification, I presume most teams will do, so that's interesting to see that a second division team coming through there. But obviously the big one is the Champions League, and we need to go and have a look at that and see which Dutch teams have been progressing in it. And obviously you can see FC20 reached the knockout stages, but were drawn against Real Madrid and lost 4-1 on aggregate. So not a bad result for them, considering it's Real Madrid, but you would have liked them to do a little bit better, maybe try and get into the second knockout round. Season after that, no Dutch teams there, unfortunately. Season after that, Ajax made it in there, but faced PSG and lost 4-1 on aggregate. So, teams are making appearances there, but they're just not able to establish themselves. Season after that, no one there, so it's just a bit of inconsistency in the Champions League at the moment. And then the season we've just had no one else there again, so I think this extra billion is in order now, especially as they just can't seem to get into the first knockout round. If we go to the Europa League, then we can see that in this 25-26 season, AZ were there, they beat Seville 4-3 on aggregate, and Ajax beat Schalke 2, and they beat them on away goals. It was 2-2, but they won on away goals. So that we could see that as both of those teams getting into the second knockout round, where they faced Bilbao and Madrid respectively, both of them losing on penalties. AZ, that's unfortunate, and United beating Ajax 5-3 on aggregate. The season after that, there's 3 Dutch teams in this competition: PSV losing to Fiorentina, Ajax beating Mainz, and Feyenoord losing out to Sporting. So at least one team's got through to the second round this time. We can see there's a bit of progression in the Europa League instead, but this time they lost 3-1 to Ajax. They obviously drew the first leg, but then couldn't do it in the second leg, so they lost to Liverpool, unfortunately. In the 27-28 season, were there any Dutch teams? There's one. There's Feyenoord, who lost 2-1 to Valencia. They won the first leg, but it was overturned in the second leg. That's quite a poor showing from the Dutch teams in this year. Only one team making it through to the knockout stages. Last season then, PSV made it in, but they lost 3-1 to Napoli overall. Feyenoord lost 4-3 to Roma. That's unlucky for them. And that's all the Dutch teams in there again, so it's starting to slow down a little bit. They're getting into the knockout rounds, but just not making it into the later stages, so we need a bit more money in them clubs, I think, really. And then the season we've just had, we can see that Feyenoord lost 4-3 to Wolfsburg, but Ajax beat Lazio 4-2 on aggregate, so that's good. If we go into the second knockout round, then let's hope they can progress another time. They didn't, though. They lost 4-3 to CSK Moscow, winning the second leg, but obviously couldn't overturn the deficit from the first leg. So I think what the plan is now, we're going to give each team another billion to spend and just see if that can help boost the ratings and boost the players and get their finances up a little bit more, get their reputations up a little bit more, and hopefully we can see a Dutch team winning European competitions again, because it's about time that one of them wins it. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below saying what kind of experiments you want me to do next, and I will see you next time.